A very good evening to you all and a very warm welcome to this, the start of Manchester City's season, our first pre-season game at the CFA as Manchester City take on Preston North End. It has been 77 days since we clinched the Premier League title, 59 days since the season ended, and I've got to say that's 59 days too long without football. But we're back, we're here, and I for one have missed you, and I've missed these fine gentlemen next to me. Joining me to get into this game is none other than Nedum Onuoha and Shaun. Gents, so good to be back. How are you? Absolute pleasure. I mean, Shaun, always a treat to see you, but I want to begin by saying you must be buzzing with Bermuda's first Olympic gold medal that happened today.
I was wondering if you was going to just dodge that one there, but you done well.
Yes. It's got to be said. Look how happy he is, Nedum.
We're champions.
Hey, well, you're champions, we're champions, and hopefully we're going to be regaining that Premier League title this season. But of course, we've got a small matter of our first pre-season game, and here to get into that are these guys. Guys, pre-season, I mean, how is it for the players, you know? And what I guess I want to know, first of all, is what is the main purpose of it?
Do you want me to begin?
Yeah.
Well, your first pre-season was when I was just a very young boy, so I'll let you take the lead and I'll bring it forward.
Well, yeah, pre-season's a little bit different nowadays, but certainly in my time of pre-season, it was about getting minutes so that you can, if you're playing your first game, you want to be strong up until at least the 80 minutes if possible. Everyone is always shattered when you get to around 80, 85 minutes. It's normally the hottest day on record. But yeah, it's about getting your fitness. Pre-season games about not getting fit and can you get your minutes under your belt. For managers, it's about players understanding, tactical things that he may look to explore throughout the season, but it's about fitness.
I mean, we're so excited because obviously we're hopefully going to see a load of young players in the squad, but that is because we've not got a full first team as we're used to. So I wonder, how does Pep manage not having a complete squad? We're going to bring you the team very soon, but I've always wondered about that because obviously you're missing some key players.
Yeah, I think for somebody like him who's managed some of the biggest clubs in the world, every 2 years there's inevitably going to be a tournament, and you're going to have players who are going to be participating. Their season's not going to finish till late in June, maybe early July.
Yeah.
So chances are they won't be there for the first bit of pre-season. So I think in the past we've probably learned to manage that. And, those guys, they don't necessarily need to be going through the same sort of fitness routine as somebody who didn't go and play in an international tournament. So I think he's aware of how the players are. He's aware of how he wants them to play. And to piggyback on Shaun's point, it's about fitness. It is about getting things tactically right. But that's when you have a good manager, because I've had tons of managers who just want to break you from minute one. To be honest, those are some of the longest weeks of my life. But I think in Pep here, you're just going to try and get this. I think he's going to try and get the team to be rolling, to be comfortable again with the style of play, and know that ultimately, even though they won the league last year, they have to be better if they're going to win the league again this year. And I think that's what we'll probably see going forward. And
that's something, as we know with Pep, he's been so good at installing in these players. We will definitely be coming back to hearing about the stories where you were broken in pre-season. Yes. Final word before we get on to team news. Shaun, for young players, and of course we're here at the CFA where we do have one of the best academy facilities in the world, some of the greatest young players. This really is a chance for them, I guess, to kind of show what they're about and maybe, shine a light on themselves that necessarily they wouldn't have had if there was a full first team here.
Well, yeah, I think Pep's well aware of these young players, and as you said earlier, we're not got the full squad, so these players will be looking to put a good foot forward in terms of impressing manager, so they can showcase their skill, their ability, and give Pep something to think about.
Right, let me bring you this team. Remember, if you want to see these players in action, you can actually watch this full game against Preston North End on City Plus. That is our streaming service. Very, very simple. All you need to do is sign up and subscribe, and that will be the only place you can watch this game. And of course, you'll get on there as well all the EDS games throughout the season, home and away. We'll also be showing some of our WSL games, and as well, you get full match highlights from our first team at full time. They go straight on, not to mention a whole load of documentaries. I mean, it's all there for you to enjoy. Just subscribe, and can you watch this game with Shaun commentating, by the way, I've just been told.
This is
Hello.
Hello.
Wow, okay, Alistair.
Tune in.
All right, let me bring you then our first team of the season for our pre-season game against Preston North End. It looks like this. Very strong. Zach Stefan starts in net. It's looking like Ruben Diaz, Nathan Ake, Benjamin Mendy and Joao Cancelo in defence. Fernandinho's there in the middle, I'm thinking, with Ikepozo, Riyad Mahrez, Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmer and Ben Knight complete the 11. And then it is a very full bench, some very exciting young names here that hopefully we'll be getting a glimpse of. Kieran Slicker on the bench is partnered up with Philippe Sandler, Patrick Roberts, Jan Couto, Pablo Moreno, Samadozi, CJ Egan-Riley, Shea Charles, 17 years old, Matt Smith, Luke Bolton, Claudio Gomez, Finley Burns, James McAtee and Mika Hamilton. I think lots for us to discuss there, but first of all, what I was struck by, gents, was, and I know that I think Nathan Ake, Mahrez, Cancelo, they only really turned up to training yesterday, straight into the team. Are you surprised by that?
Surprised a little bit, maybe, but going into this game, I doubt they're going to be playing for anything more than 45 minutes. And in some ways, if you sort of take away the psychology of it, they probably do more in a training session. So I think as far as that goes, it helps to have minutes in them. And the team's only got 2 preseason games before the season begins. If you choose to skip one, where does that leave some of those players who've been around for this time? And so it's just it's a necessary evil for this point, but hopefully it makes a big difference further down the line.
This might seem like a bit of a silly question, Sean, but obviously, you
You're
look
good
at
for a silly question.
Hey, you love that.
Question, yeah.
But you look at these players and you go, do they actually get a little bit rusty when you have 2-3 weeks holiday? Is it kind of, if I've not played football for a couple of months, I need a few games to get the first touch back in, and even then it's not great. Do those players need it as well a little bit, just to get kind of back feeling used to being on a pitch?
Well, these players, they go all year round. I mean, different to my time, you would get around a good 6 weeks, so you'd lose your timing, you lose your fitness, all those things. These players are at the most, they've had about 3 weeks. You tend to lose your fitness around the second week, towards the end of the second week. So these guys are, again, the timing and all that will be spot on. Again, it'll just be about finding their rhythm. I think Pep will be looking for these guys as they shift and pass the ball, getting a rhythm, hearing that ball go bop, bop, bop.
And I think as well, it's the getting in the rhythm of playing with each other again. Because for those guys, even though they were playing maybe 3 weeks ago, they weren't playing with this team in this setup. So for some of those guys now, it's a chance to go and play with, say, Zach Steffen behind you again, to play alongside Ruben Diaz. Like those familiar things which will matter more as the season progresses.
Word you said there, rhythm, and if we cast our minds back to the start of last season, we did kind of have a lot of talk how there was no pre-season, and would you say that's probably one of the biggest things why we say we miss it a bit, is because they didn't have the chance to find the rhythm, and we maybe saw that at the beginning of the season when we were maybe intense?
Listen, possibly. It's definitely a potential reason. It doesn't necessarily have to be, because I've seen some teams who have terrible pre-seasons and have great seasons.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I was part of a team which won every game in pre-season, then didn't win a league game for 16 games. So as far as all that stuff goes, it's not always that simple. But for a team like City, with the talent that they have, they can be good, but when things fall into place, they can be great. And unfortunately, at the start of the season, they had a few things which went against them, and they weren't able to perform to the highest standard. But as we saw from last year, I think they finished off pretty well.
Well, I'm going to keep it real. In terms of preseason, it's just important that guys get this real rhythm, moving the ball, shifting the ball. Again, Nedum said it earlier about them sharing the ball, getting that rhythm, understanding players. I mean, I'm intrigued to see where certain play, because where they play. I'm looking at Cancelo and thinking, well, he ends up in a number 10 role, or he was doing that last season. Where does he end up? Tonight? Does he start at fullback? But again, it's about finding that rhythm, finding that breeze, and being able to go, okay, I've gotten through a good 60 minutes or whatever the managers give them, to then look forward to the next game.
We've had a few of our young players been confirmed that they have actually been officially confirmed as joining the first team squad this season, which is very exciting.
Awesome, yeah.
One name that we can see in our starting 11 who is one of those players is Cole Palmer. Well, I think we were maybe here as well for the EDS Liverpool game.
Yeah.
Just what is the potential, do you think, of Cole Palmer? I know he's very highly thought of. I think he did, yeah. There was that one when he did look like Mahrez, do you remember?
Yeah. It's another Mahrez. Like every time I come to this sort of vicinity, I see a Mahrez somewhere. Doesn't matter what the age group is. But, it's a great opportunity. Given the fact that, say, players have been away on international duty and so on, I think the fact that somebody can be granted the chance to go and play alongside some players like a Cancelo, like a Mahrez, like a Fernandinho, it allows you to be able to test yourself alongside them, see how you fit into that team, and who knows, if you look good, that'll get you to that next stage perhaps. Whereas, in normal times, somebody will probably be playing ahead of you, but at this moment in time, we look at it and, it maybe this is hyperbole, but that's his shirt.
Yeah.
That's his shirt. What are you going to do with it?
I mean, it's something that you will have experienced, Nedum, and for those young players, does it mean a lot to be involved in the pre-season?
I think my first pre-season game for City's first team was against Bury. I think it was in the 2002-2003 season. and it felt incredible. I was putting the shirt on, but not just like one which didn't fit me because it's one size fits all in the academy. It's like, this is the shirt for the club, and I'm alongside this first teamer, that first teamer, and we're going out to play this game against this side in a stadium in pre-season. And I got selected by the manager. And at the time, it was Kevin Keegan.
Yes.
This former England manager. Kevin Keegan has picked me to be here. And I played in the game. I think I hit the crossbar from a corner and stuff like this. And I'll never forget that feeling of walking away thinking, yeah, I absolutely loved it. I was looking forward to it, played in it, incredible. And I still remember it to this day.
And then for the more senior players, Shaun, when does it give you a bit of kind of new energy, and do you kind of take on the role of kind of wanting to talk them through the game a little bit when you have got these young players with you in the squad?
Well, when you got young players, they're there because they deserve to be there. So I was not one of those to sort of baby a player. But when things went wrong, I was there with their supporting arm and saying, "You'll get through this." But players don't want you to be holding their hand, because the first thing I say is, "You're in here because you deserve to be here. Go and do what you normally do." And that sort of partnership, then they understand and they go on and perform really well.
We've got Fernandinho starting, of course, and we were all waiting with bated breath at the end of the season to go, like, was he going to sign that year extension? I know all the fans wanted it, and great to see that the club wanted it, because he is here for another year. To both of you, I'll begin with you, Nedum. How important do you think that is, not just for City, but actually for the young players and the season ahead?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. That's a leader amongst men. For the disappointment with, say, like the Champions League and stuff like that, people felt that the thing that was missing was a Fernandinho, for example. Obviously, in hindsight, you never know. But that's a guy who's been at the club long enough to know what the fabric of the club is, to know what the fabric of this particular team is, to know what the manager wants, to know how to get success whilst being here, whilst competing against everybody in England, everybody around Europe. Those people are invaluable, because whoever comes through the door to replace him, they have potential. But in somebody like Fernandinho, that is what you want. The person that's coming in, you want them to be like him, because he's so important on the field, off the field, in terms of the way that he plays, in terms of the way he conducts himself. I think he sets the standard. And for me, aside from, say, back a few years ago when I saw like a Vincent Kompany, who I thought was, this is the standard, this is the guy, I look at someone like Fernandinho and say, that's this era's version of Vincent Kompany. Yeah. That's how I see him anyway.
Wow, it's the biggest compliment you can pay him as well.
There you go.
We mentioned Cole Palmer. Morgan Rogers is another player I'm really excited to see. A young Ben Knight who we signed from Ipswich. I wondered, as you look at the bench, if there was any other players you were quite looking forward to seeing, Shaun, in yourself. I mean, Felipe Sanders, we know, is sent off. Jan Couto, the Brazilian right back who had a great season in Spain. He looks like he has a lot of potential. Well,
if you're coming from Spain and you had a bit of a period in Spain, you've got to be half decent. We know these guys will be technical. Last season, if I'm right, I think they finished around 13th. The manager, then the transition period. So it'll be intriguing to see, because their manager will be really excited to come up against Pep. So he'll be wanting to put his DNA and say, listen, I want us to go out there, be on the front foot. Don't be afraid. You're playing against City. Go and impress yourselves. Yeah. So it'll be really intriguing to see how Preston, attack this game.
I think from playing against Preston in the Championship for a couple of years, whatever, like, they're no fun to play against. Yeah. So for some of those youngsters, for the technical ability that they have, this is a great opportunity, because they're coming up against a side who aren't necessarily more so concerned about just moving the ball. They're more concerned about results. These are people who play for their livelihoods. Yeah. So it's like, are you going to go out there and be able to perform when somebody's in your face for 90 minutes, because that's what they're going to do for another 46 games once this game's over.
Oof, very exciting. Well, listen, if you want to see how they fare, City Plus is the only place that you're going to be able to do that. Just subscribe and you'll be able to watch the game in full. Now, let me cast your mind back to 2019, a little-known competition called the City Cup. Sorry, the Carabao Cup, forgive me. And we did face Preston North End. Here's how we got on.
It's Manchester City away to Preston North End in the Carabao Cup. Powerful run through from Sterling. It's still Sterling. And he scores for Manchester City. There were several opportunities to pull the trigger, but Sterling waited and waited. Preston North End 0, Manchester City 1. Silva. Sterling. It's not through. First time strike from Gabriel Jesus. 2-0 to City. Latched onto perfectly by the Brazilian. And a first-time strike past Ripley. Cancelo's gone on the run here. The right back is in the centre of the attack. The ball almost pulled across for him. It's found its way into the net off a deflection. Created by David Silva. touch there is off Ederson. And sees the ball spin across the line. Preston North End 0, Manchester City 3. Preston, the box here, and it clashes against the post. Preston nearly pulling a goal back. City will try and get this away. Here comes the cutback. Foden sets up his teammate Gabriel Jesus, whose shot is saved by Ripley. And the referee calls an end to the game. Job done for Manchester City. No goals in the second half, but City run out 3-0 winners away from home.
That was a great game, but it wasn't an easy game. 3-0 was how it finished last time out against Preston North End, of course, as well in a cup where we do get to see some of the youngsters. Great to see Taylor Harwood-Bellis there, who we know had a brilliant season on loan at Blackburn last year. Let's take a look at the Preston team that our Manchester City team will be taking on. It looks like this. Ripley starts in goal. We then have Van der Berg, Story, Lindsay, Hughes, Earl, Ledson, Whiteman, Potts, Barkhuizen and Evans. And on the bench, and there's a little name here that I think we'll all remember fondly, we've got Hudson, Bauer, Rafferty, Cunningham, Bayliss, Brown, Lee, Harrop, Scott Sinclair, that's right, former Manchester City player, Thomas, Walker, Maguire and Reese. So, Nedum, you said it there, and that was kind of going to be my question. Is it just as much a kind of pre-season for them where they'll be playing for fitness, but you think they'll be turning up here to kind of show what they're about?
I think their season starts next week. So, for them, they've been back in a long time as well. So this is one of those moments where fitness, you know, it's always an important thing, but it's about performance now. It's about trying to get yourself into that starting 11 for the start of the season. So for some of these guys here, you know, you can never guarantee you'll play yourself into a team, but very quickly can play yourself out of it. So if you go out there and you don't sort of show the things which the manager wants to see, you know, he'll probably hold that against you. So every game is 100% competitive for them. This matters. The fact they're playing against City up here in this nice stage and all that stuff as well, that matters even more because it's going to be a really, really good test for them. Yeah. And I think how they walk off the field now, for some of those guys, that might be the difference in terms of whether they start the season or they don't. So this game obviously matters.
Yeah, it's massive to them. And Shaun, you alluded to it there. I think, you know, they finished 13th, but had a very strong end to their season last year. I guess that's something they'll want to continue and probably will be looking to try and be fighting for a promotion spot this year.
Well, yeah, I think the manager coming in, even though it's in a transitional period or temporary, he'll be wanting them to start off very well. And again, these players, you know, if I'm a striker playing here tonight, I want to impress. As Nedum said, their season starts earlier, so they're a week away. They'll be wanting to get, you know, hit the ground, score goals. Whenever I was a week away, I wanted to have my last preseason game. Not sure if this is last preseason game, scoring a goal. Yeah. You know, hitting the back of the target. So defenders will want to keep clean sheets. Midfielders will be winning tackles, being creative, having possession, keeping it well. So I think, you know, from their point of view, they need to be ahead. They need to show that they're on another level in terms of the fitness, or just at the second level.
And final question, because obviously we've said it's probably a little bit more fitness for our City players, maybe Pep to try some tactical things, because they'll maybe be playing to a full game plan. Do you think maybe then it kind of is probably more in their favour than City's, given that they've got kind of a full 90 minutes ready to go?
Well, I think this is one of the few times where, say, Preston will hold an advantage over City because they've been in pre-season for longer, right, and their first team is here in its entirety, whereas for City, that's not the case. You've got tons of key players who aren't here at this moment in time. But ultimately, it's a game of football, and City are a very, very good side, whether it's the starting 11, the next 11, or the people in EDS. So ultimately, like, the game could go either way, but for Pep, I think he's more concerned about just the things that matter the most, which are fitness and the ability to sort of go forward with the game plan which he puts forward. And that's why there's so many players who are young on the bench, and he's going to trust them out there to try and continue with the game plan of the people who may be ahead of them at this moment in time. Yeah. You know, don't expect to see a change in style just because the personnel changes. Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of Pep at this club and this club in general, because you know what to expect. but it's just a case of sometimes with a different face.
Yeah, and as we know, he always plays to win.
Oh, well, he said it, not me.
There's one man who I think was a real standout and star performer last season. Shaun, we spoke about him a lot. Riyad Mahrez, I mean, if he kind of continues in that vein of form that he finished last season in, I think we could be in for another spectacular season.
Yes, I think he'll be looking forward to it. I'm intrigued. Does he stick him out wide? Because we've got some young players. He may try him in another position. Again, being pre-season, and every season I seem to learn something from Pep. And you know, in the first season it was the goalkeeper. I remember watching games and thinking, clear it, keeper, clear it. And then 2 or 3 seasons in, then it was the fullback playing inverted, you know, and now we're seeing fullbacks end up in number 10 positions. Every season I learn, I evolve in terms of my knowledge watching City and watching Pep. So I'm intrigued, and with him having a break, you know, he always seems to come up with something that's a little different, that evolves the game, that gives City the edge. So I'm quite intrigued to see, will we see some of that today, or certainly in the early part of the season, because Pep's an absolute genius. But Mahrez, we know what his ability is. He has the ability to play in almost any position, because technically he's just got great control. You know, the ball and how he caresses it, his passing, his dribbling on one-on-ones. Really excited to see a bit of him today.
Yeah. The other player I'm really excited to see, and hopefully a big season ahead for him, is Nathan Ake. I think, you know, difficult start to life at City. He picked up a couple of those injuries, and we actually saw how influential, you know, he was for Bournemouth. He was their captain, let's not forget. Yeah. He played for Holland over in the Euros. Nedum, what's your take on Ake, and what do you think the season could potentially be for him this year?
I think he's a very good player. I think when you're at a place like Man City, though, it's very easy to be forgotten about at certain times, because when we look at, say, the centre-backs that were at City last year, you talk about Ruben Diaz and John Stones, and they were exceptional last year. But then you have someone like Aymeric Laporte, who again was also exceptional. So how can you also have somebody else join that conversation?
Yeah.
You know, so I think for this year, health is going to be huge, because he did play a good number of games last season.
Yeah.
But health is going to be huge, because then he can put his best foot forward. And I think he's one of those players that when he is doing so, he's very, very good. And for City to have that sort of strength in depth, to think that whoever plays back there, it makes no difference, you know, that's a great spot to potentially be in. So touch wood for him, he can have a better go at it this year and, you know, show people what it's about.
Did you ever experience that, you know, where kind of maybe you had a season hampered by a couple of injuries? Do you then really make a conscious effort the next season to go, I need to do everything in my power to make sure it doesn't happen again?
I think you can do, but sometimes you can't necessarily control the injuries and things that happen to you, and you also can't select yourself, because there are plenty of times where you might not see somebody play for a month, 6 weeks, but it's not because they're injured, it's just because they're not being selected. But I think the best feeling for me in terms of football is when you're playing week in, week out, and you're playing well, because everything is so easy. You've got no stresses, no worries, no nothing. You're just out there, you're comfortable, you get to the stadium, you're so relaxed, everything else. But then for other people, when they play every so often, you're concerned, I hope I can play well enough to be able to do this or to be able to do that. And playing under those sort of constraints, you never really seem to get the best out of people.
Do you ever worry about it, though, like, obviously, a couple of these pre-season games? I mean, the last thing I guess you want is to pick up an injury in a pre-season game, Shaun. So is that in the back of players' mind at all?
No, when you think that you do get injured, I think you normally would just play your normal game. You do, and again, clever players, intelligent players can see tackles, and they know when it's time to actually, I'm going to have to jump out of this one because this guy's coming extra aggressive, and therefore you're best leaving that to him. But for the most part, balls are there to be won, you go and win them. I think probably the odd time I had a 50-50 with him, I just pulled out because I pulled out as well.
It's a 0-0. Someone else take it. Yeah.
Also, we've got a few, obviously, player personnel. But talking of coaching personnel, a couple of changes to Pep's coaching team. There was one kind of move made from Resco, of course, we know kind of has grown up with the young players. He's now coming up to the first team, obviously, probably in anticipation of a few more young players bedding themselves in
Fingers
the team.
Crossed, yeah.
With Carlos Vincenz, do you think that'll be quite key for the young players to have someone there who knows you, who then is also in Pep's ear?
Yeah, I think so. And to be honest, being in Pep's ear doesn't guarantee that you'll, essentially be able to make progress, but it's great when you know that somebody is shooting on your behalf, somebody's speaking up for you, because again, it's very easy to be forgotten about. And some of these players, if they get an opportunity this year and they play, say if you're playing well week in, week out at academy level, you like EDS level or whatever it is now, you want it to mean something. And I think when you have somebody who is able to see that and pass on those messages and say to the manager who they believe is good enough, that's great, because if you get to a point where you're playing here every week and nothing's going on, I think your morale ends up being quite low and you won't show your best performances. So I think with that role that he's got now, I think a lot of players from this point hopefully are going to get the opportunity to go through because he's going to be in Pep's ear, as you say.
And Shaun, to the young players now, that kind of, we can see them with a couple of them training down there now, and they'll be, I'm sure, really excited to take the field. Ben Knight is over there as well. Also, the white hairstyles seem to be really in trend this year. What would you think, would you be saying to them, or would the coaches be saying to them, or is there not much that needs to be said? I just think because some of them are quite young.
Go out there and enjoy yourself, express yourself. You're good players. You're in and around this first team because you deserve to be. Pep has been impressed enough to say they're the ones that are selected to come and be a part of what's happening in terms of the preseason game. So I think it'll just be go and enjoy yourself, express yourself. But again, you've got senior players in there. You've got Fernandinho that when players, if they just start to drop the standard, it's hey, keep your standard right. Come on. Let's keep it right, keep it tidy, sharp. Yeah. So I think that'll be the message.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think the beauty of this club of the club at this moment in time is that people who come in, you probably get more credit if you can do the job that's asked of you, as opposed to coming and trying to do dribble past 5, 6, 7 people. What matters more is knowing that you can fit in alongside Fernandinho because you understand your role within the team.
Yes.
And I think that for me, if I was a player and somebody tells me what my job is, that knowing that's all you've got to think about as you go out there, it helps you play well.
I mean, that's an excellent point Nedum makes, because kids out there listening is knowing your role. Because again, if I'm going to play alongside, as he said, Fernandinho, I need to know my role. Fernandinho is breaking it up. It may be my role that I'm more box-to-box player. I'm more getting into the box. It may be that I'm more of a 10, but you have to know their role. And I think that'll be the little whisper in the ear, the little wink of the eye saying, well done, keep it going. This is what you're here to do. Continue doing that.
I guess that's then the benefit, as well as I've learned as well through doing this show, that we try and implement the same system, the same formation, the same roles throughout all age groups at the academy. So actually that can only help these players do exactly what you're talking about.
That's exactly right. Obviously it doesn't guarantee that you'll be able to play well, but you arrive at this point understanding the system that the club wants to play.
Yeah.
I think in sort of my time and maybe a bit further beyond, at times maybe there was a disconnect in terms of the way the first team play compared to everywhere else, because the manager turnover and stuff was a bit different, and so when you stepped up you had to learn what they wanted to do, whereas in this stage now I think the moment you sign for Man City, whether you're 8 years old or you're 38, you know what the system is. Everybody understands it. You understand your role and how you work within it. So whether you're playing for the first team, second team, the under-16s, the under-14s, in some ways it's a joy because whoever you watch, you know what you're going to expect. So that's definitely a positive.
In it, class, you can go and watch some under-9s and it's like watching Manchester City's first team. Shaun, one player who I'm sure we would love to ask how he likes his sautéed onions, Joao Cancelo, you touched upon him before. Unfortunate to make the Euro squad. Tell me, what do you think he'll be hoping to do this season? We know he can kind of play all over, but do you think he'll be kind of looking to really cement himself now as part of the first team, which he kind of is?
Yeah, well, listen, when he plays right back, we know what he can do. He can go inside. I'm also intrigued because when he plays left back, he ends up, when he's up in the high positions, he actually can bring himself inside onto that right foot. So he finds himself on the edge of the box, sliding balls or having shots. So this is where he becomes a number 10. And so and again, if he's playing right back, he can go down the outside. As I say, sorted players, he's dicing them inside out. And it's just beautiful to have a player that is a fullback but can beat players like an attacker.
Yeah.
But also has the pace that when a player goes at him and they're running and they get the head up and they go, oh, it's Cancelo, I'm not going to knock it across him because he's quick. Therefore, they go, oh, I'll pass it inside, and they avoid that. So really exciting to see him and what difference he can bring, because, again, you have to be an intelligent player to do these type of things within Pep's team as well. I've
just thought this now while you were talking. Obviously, we know how strong Kyle Walker was for us last season. For me, he was one of the players of the season. We saw, though, in the England squad, him kind of playing that back five a little bit. Do you think there's a potential that we might see that with City this year? Because that would then allow Kyle maybe to be part of the threes we saw, and then Cancelo on the right.
You see, you're trying to sneak him into the team. I like that.
I'm asking the question.
Anything is possible. I'm pretty sure Pep's got a plan A, and he's got a plan B. And with the players they have, the football IQ is so great that they can go to a 3, they can go to a 5, can go to a 2. So anything is possible with this lineup, and I think it's a shame at times that you have to, the curse of having strength in depth is that people will be disappointed every week who could definitely be playing within a team. Instead of days gone by of like having a starting 11 plus one or two who you'd bring in. For the City now and for other teams who were very successful, that's gone, and it's a disappointment because we're talking about how great Cancelo is, and he is an incredible player. But then it was only 6 weeks ago, whatever it was, where he wasn't starting in the Champions League final. So for City, it's a gift and a curse. But anything's possible when you've got the right sort of management and players around you.
It really is, and not forgetting as well, I think there was a great stat last year. I think, out of all the games that potentially City could have played in, we played in them all bar one, which was the FA Cup final. So there's lots of games there for everyone. If you've just tuned in, thank you for joining us. It's our first pre-season game of the season. Manchester City take on Preston North End at the CFA. It's so great to be back, so great to be with you. Now, if you do want to watch this game, the only place you can watch it is on City Plus, and it's so simple to sign up and subscribe. You can watch this full game, but not only that, you'll be able to watch EDS games throughout the season, home and away, all of them. We'll have games from our women's team who we know are just going from strength to strength each season, and some incredible documentaries that are put together by the team here at Manchester City. We have documentaries on Kevin De Bruyne, we have documentaries on David Silva, we have a documentary on how Manchester City scouting network works. That was a little bit of a mouthful. And we also, I can now reveal we've got another exclusive documentary arriving on City Plus centred around our Brazilian goalkeeper, Ederson. And can we give him a sneak? We can give you a sneak preview. Let's do it.
Nós mudamos para cá em 91, juntou dinheiro e compramos aqui, que aqui era tudo barraquinho de madeira, né? Aí juntamos dinheiro e construímos aqui. Foi a primeira casa. Ele nasceu aqui já.
E aí, rapaziada, beleza?
Bom dia. Bem, de sempre.
E aí, Deboê, lembra desse muro aí? Lembra, babão? A gente desenhava o gol aí, né? Colocava o chinelo aí, descia chute no Ederson, né? E o troféu, qual que era?
Era o dólar.
O troféu, babão, nosso troféu era o quê?
Foi o dólar, isso aqui é troféu, filho. Nunca perdemos. Isso aqui valeu mais que o troféu da Copa, do que da Champions, da Premier que ele ganhou. A nossa Liga dos Campeões. Acho que valia mais.
Essa era a nossa felicidade, né?
O Ederson começou a jogar na linha. Para jogar na linha ia bem, agora para voltar, para marcar aí. Precisava de um táxi que eles falaram.
Que o Edson ele veio para cá não como goleiro, né? Ele veio para cá como jogador de linha. E meu pai ali, treinando os garotos, por algum motivo, não sei qual, acabou colocando o Edson no gol. E no gol meu pai viu que ele tinha cacuete para goleiro. E meu pai gostou, falou assim, olha, eu acho que você tem potencial no gol.
Ele queria sair para chutar. E foi aí que eu comecei a perceber que o chute dele era bom, que era chute forte, ele tinha um chute perfeito praticamente, né? Aí ele passou não só a ter a jogada ensaiada nos escanteios, como bater os pênaltis da equipe, enfim.
Eu acho que ele não seguiu meus passos, eu acho que ele ultrapassou. Eu acho que isso é o mais importante, né?
Tio Rogério, pé direito da bola, passou pela barreira!
Eu acho que o Ederson talvez seja um exemplo do que é, né, o melhor que você pode ter num goleiro no futebol moderno.
Ele nasceu com esse dom de bater na bola como ele bate, né? Mas era muito evidente.
So that will be arriving on City Plus soon, and if you subscribe for today's game, then you'll get a chance to watch that and all the brilliant documentaries that you can find on that channel. Honestly, it's a great production team here at Manchester City, well worth your time. We just had a little watch of, there's a little keep ball session going on down here with the team, and we were just saying, Shaun, I could stand there and watch that all day, isn't it?
All day. I mean, the standard is ridiculous. I mean, the way they keep the ball in such a small, as a telephone box, how they're moving and shifting it, the pace, and then they slow it up, and then it's bip, 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 real quick. It's absolutely
Listen,
You're catching it.
all I want to say is that as the younger member of this sort of like ex-player thing, a telephone box reference doesn't really hit home the way it used to 10 years ago. That's all I'm going to say.
My question to you, Shaun, do you reckon back in the day would you have been keeping up with that one touch?
No. I'll be doing a bit of shooting.
Yeah.
Go for target.
I'm staying in my lane.
I'll tell you what, though, to be fair, Berkovic and Benarbia, people like that.
Yeah.
That's
Ali
prime time for them, yeah.
Berkovic,
Prime time.
Benarbia, these boys, they would do that.
So I'll tell you what, Morgan Rogers is looking a little bit tasty in Ben Knight as well, and they are actually on the starting lineup. And just for myself, a couple of the young players I'm excited to see. Jan Couto, of course, the young Brazilian who we signed, had a great season in Spain. Sam Adozi had a great loan last season. Really excited to see what he can bring. You've got young Shea Charles as well, 17 years old on the bench there. And of course, another name that will jump out was James McAtee, has already been singled out by Pep as well. And Claudio Gomez, a young signing from PSG a couple seasons ago. The young talent comes rolling. Are you surprised when you hear that the 17-year-olds now that are kind of looking to make a jump to the first team? Does it surprise you at all, or do you go to be expected now with the talent?
I think some of these players, I think if it was in a different era, they might have been given opportunities if they had the talent level that they do have now. But unfortunately, this is the most stacked City lineup we've probably ever seen in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, some of those do fall behind. But it's great that in pre-season you're being considered. People are looking at you. That almost makes you feel like you have a long-term future at the club, because for other people, not being able to make the bench when you've got 11 youngsters on the bench leaves you in a bit of a difficult situation.
Yeah.
But knowing that you are to be considered and Pep does trust you to even be involved in this altogether, that's a great position to be in. And at 17, you're ready when you get selected.
Yeah.
You're not ready when you have a certain birthday. You're ready when you're ready.
I mean, a modern day coach, you're expected to be looking at young players. If you're not really involved in young players, then there tends to be a look at you like, well, what's happening about the future? So I think it's a normal thing that managers do in terms of having at least one or two young players, if they're not in the starting team, that they are on the bench to show that the future's bright. This is the future. So it's good that they're looking at young players as well.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Gents, pre-season, I always have a lot of questions. One of the ones that I wanted to ask you both was speculation around players' futures. Because if you've not had a chance to watch it, it's one of my favourite things to do. Khaldoon's end of season review, honestly, is one of my highlights of the year. And he said there, that City are going to look to bring in 2 or 3 key players in some key positions.
Yeah.
What does that do, to, just players in the squad? Are you aware of that? I'm sure you all watch Sky Sports and the incessant paper talk. Does it take a toll? Do you talk about it amongst yourselves?
Well, you lead the way on this.
Yeah, listen,
I've got something to say, but you lead the way.
Just like we know about it, the players know about it. Listen, I remember playing in Newcastle, right, before Robbie Fowler came, and if the Newcastle fans were singing, Robbie Fowler's coming. So you know, but if you got anything about you, you look forward to the challenge, because that's what the industry is about. That's what, footballers, they understand. Yes, when you got this shirt, it's great. It's about keeping the shirt.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think when people come in, it's to help the overall squad get better. Somebody's not coming in and you're going to be hostile to them because they might take a position and so on. It brings out the best in some people. You're fighting for that slot, and I think a difference between, say, myself and Shaun in terms of that, having been around when the takeover happened, like in the early days of City, you could hear speculation, but you're thinking, well, they probably not got the money. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then at this stage now, it's like, well, this transfer window time. Let's see what's going to happen. The moment Robinho arrived, anything could happen. And
then, of course, I'm guessing, if there's then suddenly, so as we know, players have to kind of move on. When friends do leave,
it's sad. Yeah,
is it? Yeah,
it's sad. But especially from our era and my era as well, because I came through the academy with a lot of players. I think by the time when I was playing at 23, 24, maybe a third of the squad of people who came through the academy, and they were all around the same sort of age. So you remember, you've shared a long history with those people. But as people are leaving, you still be friends, but that feeling of walking in and seeing the people you're the most familiar with, it's a shame. But ultimately, that's the way football is. And the moment you start seeing your own people leave, and that's when the reality really hits home. And it's a great job to have, but it is a job because unfortunately you can't always enjoy every element of it.
Yeah, of course. We of course know that. Last season there was no pre-season. It's probably been truncated a little bit here. Shaun, even probably from when you were doing pre-seasons to Nedum, this probably changed. What was pre-season like for you and the boys back in the day?
Well, pre-season. for me, one of my worst pre-seasons, I actually got married and had a honeymoon, so I went on a cruise and I put on a stone. And so I would have been fined 2 weeks' wages if I didn't lose it. If I didn't lose half of it, within 2 weeks. And I was doing everything. I managed to get down to the weight. The other one was Lee Crooks. Lee Crooks didn't make it, so he got fined. He got burnt. But I mean, again, Nedum was mentioning earlier about grueling runs. Back then, we didn't have the sports science. It was just like, you see that tree 10 miles away, you got to run around that, and then you got to get back here in this time.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was it. I went on pre-seasons, and I wasn't the greatest long distance runner, and I used to get lost. And I used to come back, and everybody's sitting on doing core work and burpees and press ups, and I'm like, I got lost.
Yeah.
I took the wrong turning.
Yeah, I'm similar to Shaun. I am not a distance runner, and to be honest, pre-seasons were split two ways. There were the managers where you came in on day one, you could see the ball straight away. You're like, yes, this is great. Then the managers where they say there's no football for the next 10 days, and all you need your trainers, because all you're going to be doing is running.
Yeah.
And those ones there, like, oh Lord. There was one time, I think we were in Portugal, and we had a 2-minute hill run, which was literally just like this. And cars are driving past you, you can hear like, and you did it every single day to the point where you were broken. Like, anyone who did that pre-season, we're like united forever for the rest of our lives because we survived it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then there are other ones where the manager says, hey, let's get the balls out, let's play some nice football, got to work on this, just relax, take your time, enjoy yourself, we'll get there.
Yeah.
And I much preferred those ones, let's say that.
So is that kind of part of it then, is actually team bonding as well, to actually get that togetherness before the start of the season?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, talking about the running part, for me, if I was always towards the end, you got those who finished early, then they're there and they're sort of encouraging you. They may come back because you're a minute behind, and they're encouraging you through, so you still have somewhat of a strong finish. So that's where that camaraderie comes in. Say, come on, keep it going. So whatever work you're doing, the guys who are the fittest will come back and sort of help you through it. And each week goes by, you're getting a little bit fitter. And for me, I was always like somewhere towards like the fifth from the back.
Yeah.
But my target was always that guy that was 50 meters in front of me or 100 meters. Can I catch him? And by week 3, I was like up with him.
Yeah.
And that's right. I'm coming.
I used to be a middle of the pack guy.
Yeah.
And then as time passed, like the concepts of people relaxing after in an off season changed. And off season became pre-season. So people started getting after it and really getting after it. And it got to the point where one of the last years I was doing it, the goalkeepers were finishing in the top 10 and stuff like this.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I'm out. No, I'm not doing this anymore. Because then whenever you do things like your test, bleep test, you wait for the goalkeeper, everyone's running, you're like, it's going to do it in a second.
He's got to go on soon.
That's the bare minimum.
Guys, I have to put you on the spot though. Best and worst teammates in a pre-season. We'll start with the best. Who would always lead by example? Was there ever a standout?
Jeff Whitley was just fit, I would say, and Paul Dickoff.
Really, yeah.
Paul Dickoff was fit. I don't know how he did it, but he just kept on running. And Jeff Whitley, Jeff Whitley, we just covered that ground. So he was just really fit, a natural fit guy, and I don't know how he did it.
Fair enough.
I was normally ailing, trying to recover, and he's ready for the second session. He was just generally a fit guy.
I think for me it depends, because in the first week it's all about endurance, but as you get later on, you start including short distances and more speed. But if I'm to talk about the first week, the worst ones were Ishmael Miller and Michael Richards, because they were the literal definitions of a stiff back. Anything longer than a minute or two, you just see him just moving like this. I say, oh, that's cool, man. That's just the way it is. But get them to week 2, week 3, week 4. Incredible.
Another question I had, only because, sometimes if I've ever done a little bit of filming abroad or whatever, it's always very different. It's a different kind of feel to if we were filming in the UK. Obviously, under maybe normal circumstances, you enjoy a lovely kind of new country, maybe in a nice hot country. So then, did it kind of give it a little bit of a holiday feel as a team, or would you always actually just be reminded, no, we're here to work?
Yeah, listen, I'm going to be real quick with this one. We were always here to work, but I remember we went, I think it was Denmark, we were away. Some of the new signings, right? This was towards the end of my time. Some of the new boys were going McDonald's. So I was like, they're really settled.
Yeah.
They're really settled.
Yeah.
I call no names, but Shaun Wright was one of them. Yeah. Shaun Wright used to go, Gaffer, but I got a salad sandwich. And we're like, mate, it's McDonald's. You're not getting away with it.
Yeah, and I think that for me, it would depend what the manager was and where you were staying. Because, but to be honest with you, there was a time where we stayed in New Jersey, just looking across at New York, and you could go there as many times as you want because the manager at the time wanted to go and experience that himself. But then there was another manager where we stayed in like a little village somewhere in Germany, which had nothing for about 20 miles around it. So it's not quite the holiday you would choose to go for, let's just say that.
Yeah, fair enough. If you've just tuned in, I've got with me, of course, Nedum Onuoha and Shaun Gota. We are talking about our first pre-season game against Preston North End taking place here at the CFA. And if you want to watch it, City Plus is the place to do it. Very simple. Just jump on the website, sign up, subscribe, and you can watch the game in its entirety, of course, with all the other content on there. And you'll get our EDS games throughout the season and the women's game as well. And another little treat for you, just to tease you in that little bit more, none other than Shaun Gota is going to be joining Alistair Mann on the commentary. Have you been brushing up on the old commentary skills, Shaun?
Absolutely not. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Shaun's going to be leaving just 2 minutes to go join Alistair Mann. So if that does not get you excited to watch this game, I don't know what will. So please do go subscribe. And I'll bring you the Manchester City team for our game against Preston North End. It looks like this. So, straight in for Zach Stefan in goal and Ruben Diaz, who only came back to training yesterday. Also at the back, we'll have Nathan Ake, Benjamin Mendy and Joao Cancelo. Fernandinho in the middle, I think that will possibly be with Ike Pozo. And of course, I think maybe Morgan Rogers or Cole Palmer. And Ben Knight is also there with Riyad Mahrez. On our bench, we've got Kieran Slicker, Philippe Sandler, Patrick Roberts, Jan Couto, Pablo Moreno, Sam Adozi, CJ Egan-Riley, Shea Charles, 17 years old, wow, Matt Smith, Luke Bolton, Claudio Gomez, James McAtee, Mika Hamilton and Finley Burns. Now, of course, we would love nothing more than to have had some fans join us here. By the way, Shaun has gone off to the commentary booth, so we'll be excited to hear him in just a bit. But, Nedum, it's very welcome news, isn't it, that, of course, we've got capacity for the Community Shield game against Leicester, and we're going to be welcoming fans back to the Etihad Stadium. How big do you think that's going to be for this season and for the players?
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely incredible. You know, when we see the summer that we just had in terms of, say, European championships and stuff like that, there were certain games which just felt different because you could hear the audience. There wasn't somebody in a booth pressing a button, you know, and you get a different sense. Everything in the field is big now. There's a great connection between the fans and the players, and it's going to be absolutely incredible. Yeah. I think at times we took it for granted how important that sort of atmosphere was, but then as soon as you went away, like, all those little things remind you, like, this is why you love doing the job that you do.
Yeah.
And I think for the players, seeing the fans being back out there, like, you know, I was at the last game of the season, like yourself, against Everton, and the players running out, clapping, Kevin De Bruyne scoring and celebrating with the fans in the corner. It's like, it gives you goosebumps.
Yeah. And
to see that back, it's a great opportunity for fans to get back to doing and seeing what they love, and for the players to be able to perform in front of an audience that are trying to will them on. I think that's going to be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, of course. Well, guys, of course, we've announced the allocation for the Community Shield, and then very much we are looking forward to welcoming you back to the Etihad Stadium. That first game of the season is going to be so special. A final word, because of course we've got a whole load of young players. This is a stadium and a pitch that they're going to be used to.
Yes.
So will that actually kind of, you know, that must be nice to have a little bit of familiarity.
Without a doubt. You know, if you're going to be playing potentially your first game for the first team in a stadium which is your own, you know, that's a lot nicer than maybe going somewhere incredibly hostile. You know, I wouldn't necessarily but I wouldn't necessarily love some of these guys to be playing their first game away at Deepdale in front of a full crowd.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's nice, but, you know, it's pre-season. I think they're going to enjoy it. It's a great opportunity. See how the very best of the best prepare for games, see how they're playing games, see if you can fit in, and see what your future looks like.
Well, before we kind of leave you, and we're going to hand over to Alistair Mann and Shaun Gota, who have got your commentary for this game. Remember, do you know where to watch it? If I've not said it before, City Plus, the only place. It literally is on my microphone. I've just been told.
Exactly, subliminal messaging.
Nedum, if you were to maybe give us one or two players to maybe keep an eye out that you're quite excited to see, who would it maybe be?
So obviously the City regulars, they speak for themselves.
Yep.
But I'm looking in particular for Cole Palmer and Ben Knight today.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, they're going to be the two I'm going to be seeing to see how they fit into that system, see how they look alongside a team which is a majority of first teamers. This should be very good.
Absolutely. And do you think, you've been in their position, what do you think they'll be thinking now?
To be honest, the way these players are these days, they've got all the confidence in the world. You know what I mean? They've been playing in front of crowds and they've been known for a long time. They don't just arrive at this instance and this is the biggest occasion. And for some of them, they've had bigger ones. So I think they'll be feeling good. They'll be feeling excited. I think they'll understand it's pre-season, but what a great opportunity because, like I said earlier, for this moment in history, the shirt is theirs.
Yeah.
So make the most of it and enjoy it.
Oh, what a moment it will be for them, and how great that we'll get to see it, and you can do it too if you're watching the game. The other one I'll throw at you coming from the bench, Jan Couto. Really excited to see that Brazilian fullback. He had a great season in Spain last year. Okay, guys, so we are very close to kickoff. The teams are inside. I think we can see some of our coaching staff coming out. So without further ado, I will now be handing over to Alistair Mann and Shaun Goater. And don't forget, as we do with all our games, we are going to be bringing you half-time action, and then we'll be bringing you action at full-time as well, looking into the game, some key moments, and maybe what we've seen from this pre-season first game. Very exciting. Massive thank you to join us. Thank you to Shaun. Thank you to Nedum. We'll see you at half-time. It's good to be back. Come on, City.
Tactical and emotional. In control and impulsive. Animated. Analytical. Inventive. Intensive. Expressive and calm. Passionate and intelligent. I am Pep Guardiola and this is the new Nissan Ariya.